Hey, what's up everybody? If you don't know me, I'm Phil, and if you are a songwriter, producer, heck, just someone who enjoys watching someone create music, this is the channel for you. And if that sounds like you, click that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, all that stuff. Now on this video, I'm going to break down song selection, production, everything I did for the producer challenge that I did with Nathan Larsen. And if you haven't seen that video already, I'll put a link in the description, so be sure to go check it out. I go head to head with him. We both got this same vocal and created something completely different. Drop a comment down below if you've already seen it. Let me know whose you liked better. And with that being said, let's go jump into Logic and see how I took this
Hey, ho! Yeah.
and made it into this.
Hey, ho! Yeah.
Let's go. First things first, we had the vocal. Literally all I did to the vocal was I added some rom. I literally took the preset voice warmer. It's in 100% mix. I don't think I changed anything on here. Here's a listen to the dry vocal.
What's the worst that could happen?
Just threw it on a bus, and that's at around negative 12.4 on that bus, and
What's the worst that could happen?
it gave it a good, nice
Don't
ambiance.
you wanna do right?
The one thing that I heard right here where she says,
Take control, make a life.
I wanted to make that a little distorted to show that she was actually losing control, saying, to take control.
Take control, make a life.
And all I did for that effect here, the exact same amount of reverb on it, and I threw Little Altar Boy on there from Sound Toys. I pitched it up 12. Well, you can see the settings here. So you can take a quick snapshot of the settings there. And that's all it was. I mixed it in. It's barely mixed in, but it's just enough to give that effect.
Take control, make a life.
Now, the actual piano I used was from Hybrid Keys. It's the Haunting Score. It had just the great kind of dark, almost, I guess, horror music vibe when you hear the piano later. But that's the main piano here. And again, there's all the settings. No reverb or anything on it. Man, I think I told someone on Nathan's channel that I used Noir, whatever Native Instruments piano is. Sorry. But I also told you that I'd be doing the breakdown on this channel. So literally the only thing on here is a gain plugin, plus 6 dB.
What's the worst that could happen? Don't you wanna do right?
Now, one of my favorite parts in this whole song is the bass, and I literally just took an Alchemy bass, and it's this fast saw synth lead, a little bit left on the little plucked area just to give it enough of that saw lead there. Now what really makes it drive and just be that present force is thermal. I mean, I love outputs plugins. So for here, it's one of their presets, diced and drenched underneath the bass. It's mixed at about halfway there. It just makes it just nasty, dirty. It gives it that rhythm. And then lastly, now I described it as ear candy. I made verse 1 8 bars long, so I just wanted to add a little bit of something 4 bars in. And what I used was analog strings here. Looks like the dot and line preset. There you can see all the settings. And that's all it is, but then I just threw some tremolo, stock Logic tremolo. It just kind of gives it some movement. You can hear that back and forth there. And that is literally all I did for verse 1.
What's the worst that could happen?
Love that bass.
Wanna do right?
So on pre-chorus 1, that's where I introduced the double just to start making her voice a little bit more full.
Brush it off now. Don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable. Yeah.
Again, it just makes her voice more present. I was given some extra vocals from the original producer. Some of it had high octave, some of it I had to make, but I just added that here.
Now, Don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable.
And I just left that dry. I didn't add any reverb or anything to it because I wanted that more present and I wanted you to really hear it. I didn't want to sit it back in the mix at all. Now I changed the main piano portion from the hybrid keys, from them long drawn out chords, to introducing some rhythm. Now I did layer it up with another piano, and that's where I added in, I have no idea how to say the name of this piano, but it's just the basic pure. I don't even think I changed any of the settings. I just used it to fill up the sound a little bit more. And the only thing I threw on was a high pass filter. Filtered out a lot of the low end, and it helps make it just sound a little bit more full. Now the other thing I added here was this pluck sound. Now I used Omnisphere for this. It's the Constellations pluck. Again, just introduced to provide a little bit of movement, make your ears listen, like, wait a second, like, what is that back there? And then output coming in for the win again. I added some Portal, one of their presets, 8th triplet shape pan here. Full mix, and it just, and I'll let you hear what it did to it. See, it's panning it a little bit, filtering a little bit. I love that effect. I use Portal a lot to do some things like that. So for the rhythm section, one of my favorite Logic rhythm kits is the tension kit. So that is all I used. I used the main kicks right from there, and nice simple rhythm. It's just to introduce it to you. I was trying to introduce almost like a knock, like, again, it's meant to just be kind of soft, not too present quite yet, but just an introduction to like this beat, and everything, the snare, everything is just from that one kit. So you put it all together.
Brush it off now. Don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable.
Man, this is one of those songs that gets stuck in your head. Even my little boy sings this song, 2-year-old. Chorus 1, again, nothing really changed with the main vocal except for the fact that I introduced some delay during the chorus, and I set it at the perfect level. Honestly, what I should have did is automate the delay a little bit more, but I just set it at a perfect level to where you didn't really hear it except for when she says, yeah, 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 yeah. I just threw it over to the delay bus, and I made the delay bus a track on here so I could automate it. And so you'll see I just increased it up on those parts just during the courses where I wanted it to come forward. But when the music is playing, you don't really hear that delay except for when she says, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Don't know.
So that's how I got the yeah, 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 yeah. So the piano, to keep it somewhat dark, I gave it almost like a horror type of vibe, or in my mind, a horror type of vibe. That pluck sound, I changed the rhythm up of it. And that pluck sound is just triplets. Now the Omnisphere patch itself had some pretty good movement, but you throw a Portal on there, panning it, filtering it just a little bit in parts, and giving it more movement. Now that reverse snare sound that you hear, like, that is actually just a piece of that tension kit. It really drew me to that song because instead of me having to go in and build a reverse snare sound, it actually had it on there already. See, it already does it by itself. Now you put it together with the kit. And that was all it took to build the course out. The last production element that I included in course 1 was just bringing everything to a close. Just to a stop, sucked everything back in, and again, intentional to make you like, wait, what just happened?
Overthink, just go for it.
That's probably one of my favorite production effects. You'll hear that in quite a lot of my songs, and it's just meant to draw attention. Like not saying anything, you can say a lot. In verse 2, honestly just kept everything the same as verse 1 in terms of the instruments and sounds already selected, but just to change it up a little bit, I introduced a new sound. This little synth art type sound, I used Absinthe, and it's just this sound here. I added a nice, just basic crash sound using this damage kit, perk symbols, menu studio. And it's just one of those things you probably didn't even realize you hear it, but you heard it, but you didn't hear it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Right? Super low. Probably my favorite part is when I introduce this damage kick. So it is meant to be present. It is coming in to just smack you across the face and almost be over present. But again, this whole song is saying don't lose control, and now we're bringing in this knock. And clearly that original knock we start hearing in the pre-chorus, it's getting louder, it's getting more present. You feel it, you know what I'm saying? Like you feel it. So it's... That is literally all I added for verse 2. Now I did throw this delay throw on here, so I just created a new track. The part I actually wanted to repeat up here and put it onto this track, processing wise, I put a high pass filter on it and I put a low pass filter on it. In just enough through little altar boy. And then I threw on this delay, and this is what is going to actually make it go wherever I want. 16% feedback, and it repeats it just enough. You really probably don't even hear it. If I have any drying here, that's the original signal. If I put this at 100%, you will hear the original vocal first, and then you'll hear the other one. I put it on a different track, that way I just control it, and now any part of her vocals I put on this vocal throw track will play one whole measure after. So anytime I want that effect, I don't have to keep creating it. I'll just put things on this track. It's simple, it's easy. And then you have that same track I was given. The whole goal of my productions is not to overcomplicate things, right? Don't get comfortable. Little pun intended in the song there, you know what I'm saying? But really, when I'm producing songs, I think I held myself back because I would hear these just great elaborate productions and think I have to do that. But sometimes simpler is better. Now, it depends on the listener, but for me, again, I didn't really change anything from pre-chorus 1. I just added a little bit, right? That damage kick is in there to be more present. Distorted lead. Of course, it had thermal on there anytime I want something gritty and nasty. But it's called distorted lead, but I actually used outputs, analog, brass, and strings, the air pluck, and when you hear it by itself, it already had some decent movement, so I didn't really have to add anything there. So thermal, we have the reanimator preset, and it's really only mixed in maybe, what was that, like 15% or so, but you can see where the mix is there, and then listen to what it does to it. You know what I'm saying? Right? Literally the only thing added in pre-chorus 2, just enough to make you notice, if you're listening hard, notice something different. Like something changed in pre-chorus 2 from pre-chorus 1. It's that damage kick, and it's that distorted lead sound. Now, vocal-wise, this is where I introduced the harmony for the first time, and I actually did this pretty easy with a free plugin. Not ideal as a producer. I would actually want to have the vocalist do these harmonies. Sometimes you don't have access. I did not have access to her harmonizing the song at all, so I created it myself. So it's just the main vocal.
Brush it off now.
This is one of my favorite free plugins I've ever used now. By itself, again, doesn't sound super awesome. And where I use this the most is putting it on there, and then I can hear what the harmony is supposed to be like, and what it is supposed to sound like. Then I can go in and do the actual harmony, or working with a vocalist, like say, hey, here's the harmony, right? Like that's where this thing is powerful. But you can mix it in, and which is what I try to do on this song. If you listen really closely, you may hear the garbleness of it, but here's it by itself.
Brush it off now.
Right? Then I threw the little altar boy on there, and I brought the formant down. That way it brings her vocal back to a little bit more to where her voice would be.
Brush it off now.
It doesn't sound super awesome by itself. Just a little bit of reverb on there.
Brush it off now. Don't get comfortable.
But then listen to it with the main vocal.
Brush it off now. Don't get comfortable.
Still doesn't quite sound super awesome, right?
Brush it off now. Don't get comfortable.
That double making the main lead more present is just barely pushing that harmony back, but you mix it in with everything else and it's hard to tell.
Brush it off now. Don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable.
Last vocal trick here is I took the I just took that same snippet from the lead vocal, high pass filter, low pass filter, little altar boy, pitched all the way up, put the formant up to kind of make it somewhat chipmunky, I know, but that's the effect that I was going for. A little bit more reverb just to press it back, and then that's how we get that Again, it's just something I wanted to add about 4 measures into pre-chorus 2 to introduce something new to you.
Don't get comfortable. Yeah. Brush it off.
Now let's talk about this deep voice here. So for me, the vibe of this song was good and evil, right? The not coming in stronger, the just letting you know that this person is losing control. And I wanted to make somewhat of an evil sound. Evil voice saying don't get comfortable. Now production wise, a part for me that I was toying with is, do I say don't get comfortable, or do I say it like she was saying it, don't get comfortable, right? But it's just my own voice, actually.
Don't get comfortable.
Yeah, that doesn't really do the job, right? I don't have a super deep voice, I know that. High pass filter, just Logic stock pitch shifter. I like using Logic stock things when I can. Pitch it down, 12. Don't get comfortable. That's a little too evil. So what do you just bring up the formant a little bit. I use the stock plug-in vocal transformer, and then plug the formant up +7. Don't get comfortable. And now to help with some of that garbleness and just push it back a little bit into the mix, added reverb, the same exact reverb, just change the amount of it I'm using. Don't get comfortable. Bam. Know what I'm saying?
Don't get comfortable. Hey!
It's just too easy. Too easy. No. I was given 3 gang vocal tracks. I only introduced one of them. For here because I wanted to save the other 2 to make the third course as big sounding as I could. Sound wise, I only introduced one new thing up to this point, and it is the choir sound. The distorted lead, I just changed the rhythm. Love that damage kick. Did I even show the damage kick? I didn't. Sorry. Damage kick is this perk, dark impacts, and C1. It's the choir full staccato -F, and I just threw on some reverb. Sometimes I'll choose different reverbs for different things, but this reverb, man, it is so multi-useful, and I wanted this ambient, ethereal type of sound. And I really didn't have to change my reverbs on a lot of these things. But the choir, super easy, following the same chord. how I created the bridge. I threw the little altar boy, pitched it up 12, pitched the format up just a couple. I threw on this portal harmonic tracer, mixed in around, what's that, about 30% or so. Threw the reverb on there, negative 12.4, and I just took the snippets of the verses that I wanted to create. So for me, good and evil vibe. You got one entity on this shoulder saying, you know, what's the worst that could happen? Like saying, hey, do it. What's the worst that could happen? You know what I'm saying? The other shoulder is saying like, well, don't you want to do right? Like good and evil. Yeah, see? Listen to the words of the vocalist song. And that's it.
What's the worst that could happen?
The distortion is to show that the vocalist is losing control. Now, piano-wise here, super simple. But up to this point, you know, good and evil, right? Like when you're writing songs, producing songs, a minor chord can really just give it a darker presence, or, you know, sometimes a sad presence, just depending on what you're going for. Minor chords do that. But I want to flip it up on you here on the bridge. Like we went a little dark leading up to this point, but now hit you with the major chord. A little more happy sounding, right? Now I'm bringing the choir back, making it more present. That way, you know, man, judging's happening, right? This person, did they make the right choice? Did they make the wrong choice? I don't know, you decide. Drop in the comments below if you think they made the right choice or the wrong choice. I probably could have changed the rhythm up a little bit, but for me, it worked. Now, chorus 3, in order to make it as big as I could, I just added a few more things. Lower elements, so it's very, very low end heavy here with intent, but I put in native instruments, rise and hit, basic sub 1 here, but I wanted something more present when it actually hits, so that same exact crash I used earlier from Damage really makes it present there. So now you know that there's a hit at the end there. It's kind of low strings I bring in are these power strings in Tron from Omnisphere. Just put a high pass filter on it and it just is walking up like the bass was doing. In chorus 3, I leave the bass stagnant. And then why? Because the low strings are doing the job now. The low strings are actually providing that low end movement. The distorted lead stayed the same, choir stayed the same. I added in these string staccatos. Here that's native instrument string ensemble, and it is just the string ensemble set to staccato, and they're just there to provide a little something different. Last thing I added here in the final, I call it horn attack, but it's just back to output, analog brass and strings. We got the Hellbent lead, and this thing is just gritty. Again, it's providing some of that movement, and with the low strings, they do just a little bit different from each other. I brought in the other 2 gang vocals and I just panned them full left and right, and this is what you get.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, oh. Yeah, 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 yeah. Don't overthink, just go for it.
Again, I suck everything out of the production and then just leave her voice to end it. Leaves you wondering, you know, did she go for it? Did she lose control? Like, who won? Who won? There you have it. That is everything I did and made it into that full production that you all heard. And again, if you haven't seen that video, both Nathan and I do a brief walkthrough of how we produced the song, and you will hear the full track start to finish, both mine and Nathan. So be sure to check that out. Link in the description. If you like this type of content and want to see how I create more songs, do more producer challenges, and honestly really just be inspired to create more music, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and drop a comment with your favorite sound that was in this production, and really anything else that you would want to see on this channel. Until next time, I'm Phil. keep creating music.